Hello and welcome to Simon's Trading Channel. Happy Friday to you. It's the end of a week, the end of another week on the Bitcoin chart, and strap in for my daily Bitcoin price action analysis. I hope you're all well, excuse me, and you've enjoyed your week, and wish I could say the same for Bitcoin. Unless, of course, Bitcoin was looking to reduce its price significantly, in which case it's had a really good week. So CME is the order of the day because it's going to close for its weekly candle in 1 hour 45 minutes, and indeed that looks like, unless there's some serious downside between now and then, it's going to close out a very kind of obvious support resistance area, on which I'm going to draw as a line, but it's always an area, as you've heard me say many times here. So yeah, probably a pretty logical place for CME to close the week. Obviously I'm on the daily chart, but if you stick a week on, you can see that's likely where it's going to end up. And we'll see what occurs next week. Between where it is now, I'll come on to that on the lower time frames. So, CME, bearish weekly closure. No surprises. Now, I'm going to switch back to Bybit and down a time frame or so to the daily. Now, what I've got on here looks a bit mental. Apologise if it appears that way. It's not really. It's just a range high, range low, range mid. This is a trend line that I showed everybody yesterday. I mean, it's just obvious. And this line here is the midpoint of the bottom half of this range. And it also corresponds to an area that's significant and has been significant really back to the end of this impulsive move with that red daily closure following those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 green daily candles. And so I would expect Bitcoin, it may get support from anywhere between now, or where it is now, and that line. But even if every day is red between now and then, you would expect it to bounce from there. And that's the key area, because it's basically around 60,000, which is a nice round number. It was also the bottom of the previous range before this kind of fake out breakout occurred. And would make a fantastic higher low on a weekly time frame. So, I get the feeling that that's what everyone's looking out for. And one of the there are many idiosyncrasies of charts and trading, but one of the more commonly held ones, I'm not sure if I subscribe to this myself, is that when everyone's shouting green, you should shout red. But, there's no denying the weekly uptrend, and so for continuation of that, a weekly high low would just fit in quite nicely. So I think anywhere between where Bitcoin is now and that blue line, it's all fair game. Momentum for now is still to the downside on the daily and indeed the 4 hour. The 4 hour though is that I mentioned this yesterday, how the momentum, and I'm using MACD to measure the momentum, isn't following the same trajectory, which is a very hard word to say, as is the price. So now there'll be divergent traders who go, yeah, but that's not divergent, Simon. I totally accept it's not strictly divergent, but it does represent a waning momentum while the price action is continuing on down. It certainly doesn't mean reversal, and indeed the MACD is further away from the zero line than it was yesterday. So still downside momentum on, I would say, all of the significant all of the significant timeframes, save probably the most important, or one of the most important, the weekly, which is, still very, very far to the upside. What was I going to say next? So yes, will Bitcoin bounce sooner rather than later? I still get the feeling that where it is now, you see, coincides to this sort of weird. They look like sort of opposing. They look like they're about to do battle, don't they? These two bumps in the price action here, but it's kind of wicked down nearly to there. I do wonder if there might be a decent bounce from here. With it being Friday, then the volatility is going to start to decline over the weekend. So even if Bitcoin does bounce from here in a significant way, I don't really see it breaking the trend line and reversing this current 4-hour and daily downtrend. And it's not really a weekly downtrend because there's only been one weekly candle closure so far within this sort of downside move. So yeah, whether or not Bitcoin bounces from here, I think likely, but over the weekend, don't know, maybe. If it did bounce, then I wouldn't expect it to get much higher than sort of 67. 67.5, I would say, would be the sort of upper limit of an upward move from here, but more likely just respect trend line, and then continue on down into next week. But next week is going to be a jolly important week. I mean, they're all important weeks, but and you should not. I'm always talking about the future the future and the past in my trading videos. Just on a philosophical side, of course, it's very important to make the most of every day, and that's what I try and do. But just looking forward to next week, so key week, right? Because if Bitcoin is going to put in a higher low, based on the current volatility, you'd expect that to be probably next week. And by the same token, if it's going to break down back below 60,000 and close a weekly below there, that would likely also be next week. So next week, very important week. It's also the last week in June, I believe. It will be. It'll be the last week in June too. Take us into July. I don't see this range ending anytime soon. But I feel like maybe this current downtrend on the weekly, the 4-hour, on the daily, on time frames of daily and lower, I think it's probably going to be done at some point next week, and then another move to the upside. But that's all guesswork. It's just kind of reflecting the price action throughout this consolidation phase, and I think it makes sense. Anyway, what's the time? Nearly 9 minutes. I think that's enough of me wittering on. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and indeed, if you have, please like and subscribe. And indeed, if you haven't, don't come back tomorrow because I'll be doing it again for Saturday. Take care, guys. See you tomorrow.